Because when you learn how to create novelty in your life day in and day out, then everything feels fascinating again. Wonder is really learning how to put ourselves and immerse ourselves and embody ourselves in moments that life brings us and that surprise us and that take our breath away and that give us this gift that we feel alive. We're never going to fully make sense of this whole world, so just be. And learning how to be with yourself can be honestly one of the biggest cures for yourself too. Yet we also need to have that soft science, which is like that psychology, that emotion, that stuff that you can't see, but you have to learn how to believe and feel. In the end, you must just have more love in your heart than you have fear. And that to me is the one way that I continue to look at my challenge or to look at that fear and keep going.
Hey Sofiya, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Z?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me today at We Are Mentally United podcast. I'm a big admirer of your work, your mindset, and I'm very excited to talk and learn more about it today.
Me too. I'm so excited for this conversation. It's well overdue.
Definitely. So just to get things started for folks who might have not heard of your work, can you share a little bit about yourself, your background, the work that you are doing?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Sophia. I am a holistic lifestyle and adventure coach. And just a little bit of background about me. I started off as a kidney and liver transplant nurse, and I did that for a couple years. And I really was astounded by seeing this ability to see a second chance of life being given to people, and also the duality of that life can bring. And so I was just so inspired by seeing that, and then kind of had a twist in my career when COVID happened and then became a COVID nurse. And once again, just saw what our healthcare system does and really how it actually chooses to show up for people. And I just ended up being very much in disagreement with how much we do not show up for people or empower them. And so I chose to go down this route of becoming the lifestyle coach that I am today by getting a certification to become kind of this fusion of a holistic health coach and then also a little bit of a life coach. And so I love being able to infuse this ability of putting this lens of adventure and play and community and curiosity into people to really learn how to take charge of their health again. But my background, I would say, came from always being this athletic go-getter, and I always wanted to figure out a way to help the masses of people the best way that I could. However, I just felt like I was never doing enough as a bedside nurse, and so I wanted to figure out how I could do that by becoming an entrepreneur, and just took that risk with myself. And since then, it's just been one heck of a ride as I just really
Mm-hmm.
learned how to trademark everything and redefine what health means to people.
For sure. That's beautiful. It's always really beautiful how life leads from one moment to the other without us expecting what's going to happen. And then 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line, we're like, oh, this thing happened and that's how I got here. It's really beautiful to see that and notice that in life.
Mhm.
How challenging, how difficult was the work as when you were working as a nurse, especially during the COVID times, because a lot of people struggled a lot during COVID in their own ways. Some of them first responders like yourself, some of them lost a lot of family members within their life. So how challenging was that transition, or what is that part of your life?
It was very difficult, if I'll be completely honest with you. Just you're someone, and I want to also take this back to also really give the picture here of I was in my early 20s when all of this was happening. So this is also the time in your life where you're learning who you are, your identity, how you matter, and just figuring out what purpose do you want to serve. And so already you're in this internal debacle with yourself, and then you're put into a position where you're supposed to help people while also figuring things out in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And where everything was unprecedented, no one knew really what was going on. There is so much fear, and it just made it impossible to really figure out what you needed for yourself. And so I was a new nurse. I had no idea what was going on. The people that were also showing me the ropes, that were also nurses for, 5, 10 years, something like that, they also couldn't really aid me in the best ways that I could be aided. And so I just always felt a little bit lost. But you just try and put your best face on and you show up for the people that you need to. And I just went ahead and even if in the situations that I didn't know exactly how to take care of them per se, and you know, maybe certain interventions that we need to do, certain ways to help regain their health. One way I always felt very secure to get through it all was to just have that human connection with somebody when they were alone in
Mhm.
that room. I would always figure out a way that I would see them as a human versus a patient that was sick and had something wrong with them. I'd always figure out a way that I could create this sense of chance for them and give them their hope. And I think that's what also helped me keep going through it too, is when you have a line of people or maybe a connection that's made of both of you guys seeing hope, then it makes it
Mhm.
easier to keep going instead of feeling like you're just constantly, pulling an anchor that never is gonna be coming up from deep in the waters.
No, that was definitely a very, very challenging time, and it changed people's lives in more than one ways, I would say. And really being finding hope in those moments was difficult, especially for the first responders like yourself. But I'm glad that you were able to find something that kept you moving, that kept you pushing, because I'm in the mental health field. I've seen so many cases, so many kids, so many families just getting completely wrecked during that time because, as you said, it was very unprecedented. No one was trained for it. It just came out of nowhere. So kudos to you and kudos to your mindset for keeping yourself moving during that time. Um, were you always interested in being a nurse and being an adventurous coach, wellness coach? Was that always the vision since you were very young?
Yeah, no, I love this question. I honestly, no. I always knew that I wanted to do something in health. The little me always wanted to be a doctor, but then I always remembered I wanted to actually have a work-life balance. And so I always thought nursing would be just a little bit better because there's more control of your schedule, there's ability to, have more freedom, but yet you are just as hands-on, if not more, actually. It just there is like that little lack, there's, years less of training and certain complexities that come with our health. Yet I always knew that I wanted to go that holistic route. I always loved preventative medicine. I was someone back in high school, back in college, I would make up my own do it yourself little remedies. I'd always be looking at different YouTube videos, and I just wanted to figure out how I could create that. And so I used to travel, and I still travel actually. What am I saying? I'm a huge traveler. And so travel has
Beautiful.
always been something that's just been a big identity in my life. And when it came to going into this lifestyle coaching role, I was like, how can I make it feel like me versus feeling like once again I have to memorize all this information, educate people. There's an aspect of that, but there's also this aspect where you have to learn how to create this excitement. And I feel like health has just lost its excitement for people because it has been turned into protocols, it has been turned into pharmaceuticals, it has been turned into treatments. And
Mhm.
it's taken away the magic of really health every day is how you choose to see it. And that's why I really chose to put this adventure lens over my role as a coach because it's the only way that you can create wonder and awe in your life to kind of keep going and really change your perspective. I feel like health right now must have a huge shift in perspective so it can
Mhm.
actually truly be sustainable instead of like just another trend.
For sure, 110%. I completely resonate with that because I feel like as human beings, we were never designed to be indoors. We were always supposed to be outdoors. We were always supposed to be doing outdoor activities and stuff. And that's what we probably have done for the last 150, 200 years. But now with the evolving of technology, with COVID also happening, that pushed people towards being indoors and towards being more safe and more careful with their outdoor activities. I feel like that has really affected a lot of people. So sometimes you really have to break up the cycle. And by the cycle, I mean like your 9 to 5 work or your entrepreneurship work that you're doing, and just take one step back, do a little bit of adventurous activities, do outdoor activities, because they really result in improving our wellness.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you say that too, just because we've chopped everything up, we've put them in their little compartments in their boxes, and we've learned how to package it up. And instead, we forget how vast the world is and where all the answers are outside of you, but they're also within you. You just have to see that you are also interconnected with all of it. And I truly believe when you do have that adventure with yourself, you find it and you are able to harness it, and then you learn how to expand yourself and really be able to truly see the magic and the health that is all around you. And it was never that far out of reach, but we've created it to be so out of reach today.
Mhm.
I want to close that gap. I want to build that bridge and see your health is right outside. Like truly, just go outside.
100%. And I feel like it's mostly promoted in the corporate culture where they want you to, there are so many responsibilities on your head that they want you to work from 9 to 5, and it's constant, constant, constant work. Then when you come back at home, it's either bills that you have to pay, taxes that you have to give back. Like there are so many additional stresses within sometimes family members and stuff that people just get stuck into that cycle. And that cycle then leads towards other depression, anxiety, other medical issues, other bodily medical issues as well, because then you're constantly either in front of your screens at your work or you're at home not doing much. And people need to go on vacations. People need to take some time out for themselves, do things that they like to do, tap into their energies that work good for them, because that's how you can keep going on. Else burning out or just getting medically sick, it's very common within a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think something that you really touch on that really came to mind for me was that we're also growing up losing our imagination every single day because
Mhm.
it's getting buried by responsibilities or getting buried by these systematic ways of life. And when you lose that imagination, you're also losing your ability to really see what you can become
Mhm.
and what you can continuously transform yourself and evolve into. And so I really believe that when you take that time to find that imagination with yourself in your day-to-day life, in one way or another, you are able to continue to stay open and to stay curious of what is possible for you to always be choosing yourself or finding a way to excite yourself about life and to really just love what is given to you despite already some of the
Mhm.
inevitables that life will give you.
Yeah. And in my work, like I work a lot with kids and their families, and sometimes I see family members bringing in their kids and like having concerns around their anger, around their body dysregulation and stuff. And then I see the parent and they are going through that same phase where they are getting dysregulated, where they are feeling all anxious and all frustrated because of work that they have been doing and responsibilities that they have. That sometimes I really have to stop them and be like, what are you doing for your own mental health? Because I personally believe in that we all are transmitting energies all the time, and if parents are transmitting energies of stress or of anxiousness or of frustration, then a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old will definitely transmit it and try and replicate it in front of you. And in my practice, I've seen myself that I encourage a lot of them to take daily trips to the park. And I tell parents, I'm like, when they are at the park, just keep an eye on them, but do things that you like to do. Either listen to some music, some podcasts, some, if you're into religion, some Bible verses, and just take that time just for your own self, just for your own mental health, and see if that brings in any improvements. And I kid you not, within 2 or 3 weeks, they come back with a much better response that, yeah, it's helping us bond together, it's helping us connect together. I'm also just completely clocking out during that time where I don't have to look after the kids or I don't have to worry around my work, and I'm taking that time out. So it's been good for me as well. And it really it goes down, it spirals down, and it really affects the whole family.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think what you recommend is beautiful because it really does touch on that ability to, like, you're right. What the energy that we have is also what we are projecting out into the world every single day. And of course, when you're a child, you're a sponge. You absorb every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget that we're even as adults, we're still sponges and we absorb everything and depending on the perspective that we have. And as a kid, you have no bias at all. And so your bias becomes your what your parent is showing you or what
Mm-hmm.
your world is being structured as. And so that same concept needs to be learned to be applied to you if you want to learn how to set your own example and the people around you, because it comes down to that cellular level, because everything is energy. And so by learning how to take that time for yourself to really just find that sense of wonder again with your life and what is around you and interest. I keep talking about this forever, but I really love the aspect of just like falling in love with your life again. You have to in whatever small moment
Mm-hmm.
you can.
Yeah, that's extremely important to keep moving forward and for building up your own resilience during those ways. And I feel like you did that yourself when you recognized what you really wanted to do when you were in that nursing field. So during what time, what age, when did that change come along for you where you were like, okay, I'm gonna step back from my nursing duties and I'm gonna focus more around my adventure mindset or my wellness coaching mindset?
Yeah, I think it took probably about 3 years into my nursing career to actually really start taking action because I just reached this burnout with myself where no one was listening to me. I tried to advocate for myself to my managers. I tried to have conversations with my other coworkers, and I just felt like no one really wanted to put the action together. And so I went ahead and left altogether and just went right into it. I started my entrepreneurship business. Of course, I did it in a very smart way where I did the planning process of all of it. But
Mm-hmm.
after 3 years of being a nurse, I wanted to try a different perspective of it and see what other realm of that this specialty could serve because I never wanted to lose my nursing license. I still practice with it as I coach because I really do believe there is a fundamental need to know things on an anatomical level to understand medical diagnoses and really be able to understand lab work to some extent, especially if you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to work on physical health of you. But I truly loved that transition where, as the coach, I'm not just seeing you as data anymore. I'm not seeing you as a collection of information. And because I feel like medicine really teaches you that is you're just a
Mm-hmm.
collection of information and then it's interpreted and then it's analyzed and then boom, that's your diagnosis and this is who you are now. Uh, so as a coach, I'm way more in this ability to looking at you from that holistic lens and asking you in a very well, like really looking at all areas of your life and being able to just see what is your social life? What is your environment like? How do you see money? How are you eating? How are you moving? And seeing that transition took some time for me to like get comfortable with having those conversations because again, these aren't conversations that we have normalized for professionals to have or even that we have on a regular basis with one another anymore. And so that journey took, a couple years. Well, I'd say like the first year, just learning myself to get comfortable with it. And I've been a coach now for another 3. So like my career all in all has been 6, but like half of it was more in that medical world. And now the other half is more in that holistic wellness world. And it's crazy to see those different identities and learning how to slowly cross the bridge, but yet knowing that you can still kind of come back and forth with them versus feeling like I need to cut them because I feel like people will try and cut the cord. And I truly believe they need to stay connected. I think we just need to make almost like highways for them
Mm-hmm.
instead of feeling like it is this huge journey to get there.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. And as you said, I feel like holistic is really important. And in medicine, even in the world of psychology and therapy, that's how we do it. We diagnose people just by looking up on DSM-5 and what it talks about it. But in reality, it's not data is not just us. Like we are way more than data. We are not just robots. We have feelings, we have intuition, we have a lot of hidden powers within ourselves, hidden energies within ourselves that we haven't tapped into, which cannot be reflected upon data. So that's a very beautiful way of seeing it, and I'm really glad that you were able to recognize that within the first year of your field.
Yeah, it was a journey. I won't apologize to, or I won't sugarcoat that. I believe with where our idea of where health is going is still trying to be figured out.
Hmm.
And it's very hard when the way that we view the world is very much not hard science, where it is like we were talking about the data, the experiments, the research. Yet we also need to have that soft science, which is like that psychology, that emotion, that stuff that you can't see, but you have to learn how to believe and feel. And learning how to make them hold hands together has been, I think, the big debacle of our time. Because
Hmm.
now we feel like we have to see to believe, when really sometimes we have to believe to then see it for ourselves. And so reversing that script is so hard, however, so needed. And I think it's going to be the big shift that we need to make to really make change for that will be lasting the longevity of our lives and give quality to our lives versus feeling like constant projects.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like something that data misses out on is your own personal experience because data might be structured and it might be correct around, let's say, if it's done around 1,000 people, it might be talking about 700 people who are on the same path and same journey, but not all of them have the same background story. Not all of them have interacted with the same kinds of people, or have been either neglected or faced trauma or had different, events where things might not have gone their way because of the people that they were dealing up with. So it does not count upon those. It also does not, I feel like, sometimes count upon things that you could do to improve yourself outside of medicine, outside of taking pharmaceutical tablets. Because sometimes, and I have seen a lot of people in my practice also, that sometimes people, they they don't know what is something that they might like. So, for example, they've always lived around, let's say, uh, they've always lived around a beach. So they don't really know that if they move to a place that's more mountainous, that has more nature, they'll start feeling a different way. They've never felt that way because they've never taken that step. And I feel like that's where travel and that's where the sense of adventure also comes in, taking up those risks, taking up those steps, and trying different and new things just to see where you have what works best for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's why I really love because one of my big keys with my practice is really learning how to teach someone adventure mindset. And it is truly learning how to have that perspective that is learning that life is this wondrous experience that's always unfolding in front of you, that's full of this opportunity for growth and for exploration and for learning and learning how to adapt and seeing that every challenge is really more like an exciting quest for you and seeing that the setbacks as you transition through life are actually just valuable lessons as you go on your path for self-discovery and allowing yourself to feel empowered to be like this ultimate alchemist of what you can become for your life and for your well-being.
Mhm.
And it's something that once you put that lens on, it works. It helps you just cope with yourself better. And I think some of my key elements I really love to make sure that people understand about themselves with that is, like you were kind of saying, like learning how to be like curious. Being curious is one of the best ways to start with that adventurous mindset. And then getting really resilient with yourself and knowing that you are going to grow stronger and stronger with every single thing that happens in your life, as long as you choose to see it that way, instead of coming into that victim mindset and feeling defeated, because defeat will only make you small. And then continue to just be open. When you are opening your heart, your mind, your body to things, you are able to create these possibilities for yourself and continuously just like create these new inner webs of how
Mhm.
you see the world and how you absorb the world. And that is in itself just so incredible.
100%. Like Completely agree with you on that. Is that something that you also you've spoken a lot about adventure mindset? Is that something that's integral part of your you versus you wellness coaching?
Yes, and my you versus you wellness coaching adventure mindset is you're gonna have to learn it from me. And I want to say too, like it's when I say adventure mindset, it's also it's malleable because like we were even saying before, every single life is different. Every experience that people have, they interpret differently. However, it is learning how to interpret your own self in this adventurous way to really be able to then create your story and to tell it the way that you want it to be told to help empower you and to help make you move forward because no matter how much we try, yes, there's a lot of research saying like the body really does know the how to communicate, but we've disconnected that cord. So it's learning how can we first open up our minds again and teach them how to be flexible, teach them how to be malleable again, to then connect into our bodies, to really come back into that true sense of well-being for ourselves and say, holy shit, I can do this and I can take care of myself and I don't have to do it alone either. And that's something
Hmm.
else adventure mindset really teaches you and learning how to, open up the gates to people and to conversations and to communities to really learn that you're not alone in it at all because we're all adventuring in our own ways.
Yeah. And like if I ask you to put it in some sorts of numbers or something like top like 5 ways or 6 or 7 ways, what are some different ways you could say people can cultivate adventure mindset within their lives when they are stuck in a, let's say, 9 to 5 cycle of work, or they are are really interested in gaining more and more education, so they're probably stuck in their bachelor's, master's, or PhD programs. How can they cultivate that adventure mindset within themselves?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. Yes. The way that I really love to plant the seed for adventure mindset for anyone that wants to start cultivating it in their own lives is first and foremost, just start noticing things differently. And but what I mean by that is when you are doing your 9 to 5, when you're doing everything in your habitual ways, open up and that's it. Just notice, don't look at the same things every single day. Maybe take that new sense of um what like we are constantly seeing the same stimulus once we get into our routines. And so it's all about learning how to get over getting into that habit for ourselves. And so it can be something as simple as instead of driving that same route to work, taking a different route to work and noticing something different in what you're seeing alongside the road, alongside the people, alongside just what is going on around nature. And that is just one simple way is just change up starting what you choose to see. And then another way is changing up your situational awareness, which I think is still very connected with my first point because we get that tunnel vision with our lives. And so having to learn how to change your scenery by going to a different location, to trying something new are huge to help break your bubble because we're stuck in the bubble. And so we have to exit our bubbles to do that. And then some other ways they're not profound. I believe it should getting in that adventurous mindset is truly like learning how to almost make yourself a character in a movie, for example, and being able to notice that with yourself. So like if you're noticing you're making a certain meal, when you look at that meal, could you inspire yourself just a little bit by putting on the playlist if it's like a pasta dish? Could you put on some Italian music in the background and let yourself enter into this wonder of, wow, this is what it's like to just feel like I'm traveling, even if it's in my own house.
That's beautiful. I sometimes do feel that way when I go out for jogs, that I put myself as character in a movie, and then I'm just looking around, I'm observing people, I'm just seeing just it just shows us the beauty of life, I would say also.
I'm glad that did strike a chord. I believe like when you do that, it creates that sense of, oh my gosh, wow, I've been transported somewhere else. And I think it is trying to figure out
Hmm.
how can you learn how to transport yourself? Can it be in what you're reading? Can it be in what you're seeing? Can it be what you're listening to? Can it be in the conversations you're choosing to have with people? What you're writing about, what you're singing about, how you're dancing? Even a change in like the way that you choose to dance can be a one way to just even start noticing this different sense about yourself in your daily life.
Yeah, yeah. And like for yourself, you are working a 9 to 5. You also have your own startup that you're building and you're growing up as. How do you implement an adventure mindset within your life, and what do you do with that within your lifestyle?
Yeah. For me, it's truly just having gratitude every single day and noticing the every day, like the sky looks a little bit different. Every day, the trees rustle and dance a little bit differently. And that to me is that's my adventure of seeing the way the world interacts with me. And it's okay that some days are mundane, but I find this ability to just, again, coming back to what I even said on how you're cultivating, how to cultivate that adventure mindset, I'm always doing it. I'm always trying to notice something a little bit different about my day, maybe noticing how the sun comes into my windows, maybe in the conversations I'm having with my friends. I'm just always staying curious, no matter how same life feels. And when I can learn how to pay attention to that and create and always be feeding that, that keeps me in that adventurous mindset. Along with, just being completely open to new experiences at all times. I will always be that person that if you want to invite me to try a new workout with you, I will do it. If you want to try out this new restaurant, I'll go with you. And again, like those are the little ways that I try and keep things just a little bit more spicy for me because it's just the only way to kind of keep going to make sure that I stay me. And that's what I always do is just trying to figure out how do I stay me in that moment.
That's a very beautiful way of living life, and I wish and I really hope a lot of people do that. But then there are a lot of people who have a lot of who lack in a lot of social skills, or who have social anxiety, or who feel like it would be much better if they take the safer step. How would you encourage them to take the first step towards adventure mindset?
That's I love that you bring attention to this because it's true. A lot of people do face social anxieties and we can't expect people just to change overnight. I can credit that I'm a little bit more on the extroverted side, and so it feels easier to do these things. But for someone that is a little bit more reserved and to themselves, I think it comes back to one of the key points I said is just learn how to observe a little bit differently. Learn to also have conversations with yourself a little bit differently. How are you speaking to yourself that you can start speaking to yourself differently? When it comes to being more quiet and reserved and shy, I think one of the best ways that you can figure it out is come to this way of how are you being playful with yourself day to day? And
Mhm.
when are you letting yourself laugh with yourself? When are you letting yourself be your own companion and be your own friend? And when you learn how to create that for yourself and feel like you're your own friend again, you will start slowly also growing out in this circle of how you're interacting with others and who you choose to introduce yourself to and what you choose to invite about yourself to others because you're learning how to invite that in with yourself.
Yeah, very true. I would also say sometimes people should not look at all activities as social activities. They could do it within themselves too, like taking yourself out for dinner, taking yourself out for a lunch by yourself, enjoying and spending that time listening to a podcast or listening to some music by yourself, or taking yourself out for a movie for a change, just to treat
Ah,
yourself for such a hard work that you might have been putting in during the week. Just having little bit of those changes and those flavors in your life, or sometimes going on solo adventures or solo trips to a nearby city or a nearby state.
yes, I love that you bring that up because it triggered something for me on one of my past clients. She is a little bit more, one of my past clients, she was just wonderful. I loved her. And one of her favorite traditions was every Tuesday night, she would take herself out to a movie. She had a membership at an old theater and she would go no matter what. And that was her way to stay playful and adventurous with herself and also feed herself in the way that she wanted to help her eventually. She ended up moving to a whole different state, starting a whole different life. And I wouldn't say that movie per se did that thing for her, but it was that one thing that helped ground her into herself to start growing and expanding to really take that risk while also learning how to take care of her mental and her physical and her social well-being.
For sure. No, definitely. I used to live in Malaysia, and sometimes during my time over there, I would just take myself out for a movie, and it would just be such a relaxing moment. Like I can't describe it. I thought it would be boring, but it was never boring, and it was just a lot of fun, I would say.
Yeah, I think it comes down to also switching the language that you're using. And that's what adventure mindset too is something that I really love to encourage is how can you change how you how you say something to yourself and just instead of saying that you're lonely or isolated, how can you rather let it be seen as this ability for peace and stillness to really grow with yourself too? Because I can vulnerably say when I was going through this journey of all of this, I was learning how I was depending on everyone outside myself instead of my own self to see who I am, to know what my capabilities are. And it took probably a year to 2 years. I mean, it's still ongoing. We're always trying to understand ourselves in new capacities, but to get down to the core of ourselves, we have to learn how to find that stillness within ourselves and hear the voices that we have been muting or that we have been replacing with someone else's and like learning how to build up our own to really know what does something mean to me and how am I living in that value and how am I making sure that the things that I'm taking action in and the things that I'm participating in are showcasing that to know that I'm in alignment with who I am.
Yeah, being aligned with yourself is extremely important also, I feel like in day-to-day life. You mentioned about one of the work that you did with your client who used to go out on movies every Tuesday. What are, if you can touch upon, what are some rewarding or fulfilling experiences that you may have seen similar to this one in your either coaching experience or the retreats that you take people to?
Oh, so many good ones. Some of my favorite stories to tell are some that really took and some of the clients that I've worked with, they've just taken big risks in their lives of wondering if they're being true to themselves and how they're really showing that to themselves. And so some ways that I really love sharing about is people like really coming to terms of exiting their unhappiness with making hard decisions of, leaving marriages or of having to learn how to remember what it is like to choose a physical activity that they feel playful in and get lost in and have excitement in. And then I really love the story of one of my clients where she's a huge adventure person already, but she felt like she lost that having children and was wondering how to come back to herself. And thankfully, somehow through the wonders of her own curiosity, she was able to figure out a way to like move them all to Italy together.
Wow.
But then some of them, and I know these are a little bit extreme, but then some other ones can be super simple of learning how to recognize and hear your voice and actually take notice in it as you are going forward in life. Because again, I feel like a lot of people they're going through the motions of what people told them to do or with the partnership that they're having of whatever is going on in their life, of whether that's the echoes of their family members, their siblings, their marriages, and they forget to hear themselves. And I think just learning how to hear who you are to yourself is just one of the most, again and again, I think is the theme with a lot of my clients that they have to learn to hear that to then also be able to, be able to sleep better, to be able to choose to eat well and to move their
Mhm.
body and to get into communities that support them. And it comes down to how are you listening to yourself? That I think just keeps being that same repetitive theme in a lot of my clients, even if all of their walks of life are completely different.
Wow, that's really amazing. Even I feel like making one small minor change in someone's life is a very fulfilling experience within itself. What are some of the challenges that you may have faced yourself while building or by being an entrepreneur or by trying to figure out? Because I'm pretty sure that transition from nursing to wellness coaching might not have been the easiest one. You might have had to question a lot
Mhm.
of different things in that moment. So, how challenging and how stressful have those moments been like, and how have you navigated yourself through them?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, this is such an important question that people should definitely hear. And I'm someone that's still in my 20s. And so I think the biggest challenge I continue to face, but I feel will always be faced is just facing the imposter syndrome. As someone in
Hmm.
because I started this in my early 20s, and our generation, I think we do get a lot of negativity towards us sometimes, but we pay attention. And there is a lot that we see that was not seen generations ago. And so I felt that one of the biggest challenges I always faced was having this guilt of, I know too much, or I should be struggling for longer. I should be suffering for longer until I have this big awakening of this is what I need for myself. This is what I want to be doing. Because
Hmm.
if you look at generations in the past, they settled. They were okay with that mediocrity of what was and we are not. And
Hmm.
so my biggest challenge is continuously being able to see that I'm allowed to teach and advocate and inspire those around me, even if I'm still developing as I go. And there's still so much that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because in the end, you must just have more love in your heart than you have fear. And that to me is the one way that I continue to look at my challenge or to look at that fear and keep going. Because what I admire about this life, about helping others, about creating joy and play and community will not stop, even if I'm gonna still be having these same thoughts because it's a part of us. Just like we're not meant to only stay. And you may probably very much have a lot to say to this point too, but I think we also get stuck in that we have to stay in positive emotions at all times.
Yeah.
When really that's not the reality. We are a roller coaster of emotions. We have up to 86 emotions. And so when you learn how to sit with those different ones and let them pass through, then making them feel stuck inside you, I think that has been my biggest challenge, yet it has been my funnest project is to learn how to navigate that continuously day in and day out and realize the intensity starts to change and the comfortability with each emotion gets more familiar and you get to really notice once you can make peace with that the other more tangible ways that we change our lives through, eating and sleeping and interacting and all of those also become way easier because we learn how to manage that internal system within ourselves.
Yeah, self-learning is extremely important. It's very, very important for us to be aware of our triggers. Because I think I've said it in another episode before that in order to solve a problem, first you have to identify that there is one. If you feel like being happy is the only emotion that you should be experiencing in life, you'll always be disappointed because that's not how life goes like. When I work with families, a lot of the kids these days, the younger ones, they're struggling with a lot of anger and when parents come to me, they some of the things that they talk about in the intake or during the treatment planning is that I want my kids' anger to go away. And then I have to explain to them that, like, anger is just like an emotion, just like happiness or just like sadness. You cannot take away your anger. They themselves at that age feel angry, but there are different ways that you can navigate that anger or you can project that anger or that you can build different coping strategies to work along with with that emotion. So understanding all the emotions, how you're feeling when you're anxious, how you're feeling when you're excited, and how to keep going on with it, it's really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because there are certain weeks that, when it comes to how our days are going, like there are days that are completely hard where you're stacked against all the odds. You have a whole to-do list of things to do and you overexhaust yourself. And it's learning how to realize it's not linear. Where did this narrative come that the life that we are living or need to be living needs to be linear? It has to learn how to have that flow. And with flow, there comes waves and tides and turns and all these different directions. And that's the point of living.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like I also very much connect with the ancient teachings, which talks about moon controlling our emotion or moon having an effect on our emotions and stuff too, because moon clearly has an effect on the water or the oceans around us. And I feel like our emotions in our daily life is very much similar to water. It's very much similar to that ocean where waves are coming up, waves are building. Some days when if it's full moon, the waves are gonna be higher, and it's really important to navigate and understand and be in touch with that to live a healthy life. Because, as you said, life is never linear. Even when you feel like you've figured it all out, it's going to throw a curveball at you and challenge you in different ways. And successful people go through that. People who are struggling or are in building process, they go through that. Rich people, people who come from low socioeconomical backgrounds, all of people go through that.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful point. It just makes me think of just another perspective I love to put on for people and to just try on is to realize like we are the four elements of this earth. We are fire, we are water, we are earth, we are wind, and learning how to see that within ourselves and around
Mm.
us is just key because there are parts of the world that are heavier in that. Like think of the islands. There's so much more airiness to them and there's so much more flow to them versus like people in the mountains, like where you live. They're probably just more grounded and more able
Mhm.
to get in touch with themselves. And then there are those people that live in those fiery places that just have more heat to them. They have more just probably excitement or maybe elevated type emotions, but it's noticing how can you put them in more fluidity and notice how there is beauty in how they just shift and change. And even to your point of like, there's just so like our world is so vast. Like we're living on a small little rock,
Mhm.
really. And there's a whole universe, a whole cosmicness to us that we're too afraid to just face that we'll never understand. And so we try and meticulously dissect ourselves into misunderstanding when really we can just learn to understand that we're never going to fully make sense of this full world. So just be and learning how to be with yourself can be honestly one of the biggest cures for yourself too.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the that perspective comes from traveling, because when you're flying, when you're in an airplane, when you're either landing or taking off, you see all these cars that look like little insects going up on the road, and that really at least gave me a huge perspective about life, that there's so many people living their own life, going through their own struggles, going through their own stuff, but they're still coming out either stronger, weaker, or in the same wavelength the other day. But they still are doing it, and sometimes we feel like we are the center of attention and everything wrong is happening with us. And in those moments, that travel or that getting having that adventure mindset could be is really really helpful. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yes, so 100% yes. Because because that what you were also talking about with adventure, you also create this sense of awe and yeah, you get this sense of awe. And awe is also, it's an emotion, but it's also a trait that you learn to have with yourself. And when you're able to really get into it, you notice like when you're traveling, or I know everyone travels differently. I don't want to say like, because people can easily glamorize travel, but there is this new sense of paying attention. And when you're awestruck and you just start to see things a little bit differently and get a little bit more curious. And when you're able to get into that, you're like lowering your blood pressure, you're lowering your stress hormones, you are noticing just how much more relaxed you become because all you're doing is learning to absorb the world. And that right there is just one of the simplest ways that you can just continually keep doing that in your everyday life. even if you can't afford to be on a plane to see that, there's a way that you can do that. Just even in the way that our world is, if you just look at the soil and look at the ground of the ants and the little mini world
Yeah.
happening all around us. There's a mini world happening everywhere. And gosh, I just love that when you can take notice in that, you'll notice how you can continually do that to yourself.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful way to put it because sometimes we get too lost within our lives that we do not see things that are happening around us. I used to live in upstate New York and I was going through a there was a time when I was going through a very bad mental health stage over there. And we had a river that was flowing, that would flow through a university. And I would just sit there. And one day there was this moment of wonder that came up for me, which was like, this sea or this river is gonna keep flowing regardless of what happens in my life, regardless of however happens in someone else's life at that time. And because we were talking, there was also a time where this time when I had this moment was also during a time when my city Plattsburgh was also celebrating a war that was fought up over there 100 years ago. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, this river must have been flowing during that time of the war too. We talk about those people, we talk about their victories and things that they went through, but it's consistent. That's how life does not wait for anyone. Life just goes on and moves on, and all we have to do is just envision ourselves. Probably that's how I envision myself, is that we are on a boat and this is an ocean, and all we have to do is paddle, 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 paddle. And there are different ways that you can paddle, and those are the ways that we should be learning throughout. You've mentioned a lot about being curious and wondering around things and just having that curiosity within ourselves. So, how would you define the power of wonder, and why do you think, and how do you think it is important for mental and physical health?
Okay, so wonder. I believe wonder is this is my latest fascination because one, I like I was saying in the very beginning, I want to try and figure out how I can fuse the hard sciences of our lives with our soft sciences and kind of put them together. And again, not everyone's going to be in love with hearing definitions about things. It's almost like how do you tell a story? And wonder is all this is it's the way that we move through our lives that starts with our first cry in the world to the last breath that we take. And so it's learning how to wonder is really learning how to put ourselves and immerse ourselves and embody ourselves in moments that life brings us and that surprise us and that take our breath away and that give us this gift that we feel alive. And really that's what wonder is. It's seeing the amazement, seeing just taking in everything that is around you and feeling it, feeling just the magic of it. Because if you don't, you're gonna just become lost and
Mm-hmm.
wonder what is the purpose of it all. Because, like we've spoke on, we are getting into this time where we feel like we're becoming more and more like machines. But ages ago, decades ago, our primal ancestors, all they were doing was wandering. They were
Mm-hmm.
wandering and taking in the world. And that is also what led us to this very moment in time because we wandered and we wondered and we whittled and we did all these different things that create this wonder cycle for us because that curiosity creates this expansion on how we take on that world and how we act in this world. And so that is why we need wonder and why I believe it's another pillar to that adventure mindset. Or like it's the brother, it's the sister, it's the cousin, whatever you want to call it. But they're related.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Sophia. Really.
Mhm.
Wow. No, because that's what I feel like that's one of the big things that we are lacking in today's time and age. We are not being curious. We are not having moments of awe, um, kind of a things, because that's what really pushed us through our limits. So that what pushed our ancestors through their limits and made them bring up all these beautiful inventions and things that we utilize today. But I feel like now with the whole, again, keep saying 9 to 5, or the workspace that we have, or the social lifestyles that we have in terms of being completely focused on work, 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 or trying to make sure that your bills and your means are coming up to an end, that people don't get that time to wonder. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. It just comes down to how are you creating novelty in your own world and in your day-to-day life? When was the last time that you felt like it was a day that you just felt brand new to you? Yes, we're going to repeat every single day, but how can you create a novel experience with yourself that will manufacture this new sense of what you do see? Because when you learn how to create novelty in your life day in and day out, then everything feels fascinating again. Instead
Hmm.
of feeling shrunken, beaten up, or just taken advantage of. And so it is your responsibility to always figure out how can you create something new for yourself and make it fun, make it playful, make it just how are you just creating a smile on your face? It's just one simple thing that you can start doing.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so basic, yet so many people struggle with it. But I feel like just taking the first step is really important too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
How do you maintain and manage your own mental wellness and balance and find balance during your lifestyle? Because mentioned that you are an extrovert, you have a lot of social activities, commitments. You're working 9 to 5. You're also an entrepreneur, must have family life too. How do you balance all of that together, and how does it affect you, and how do you navigate through those things?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this. This is truly going to be a quick little honesty hour here. It's tough. Yeah. I, of course, advocate for this, but truthfully, I teeter-totter every week, and there are certain weeks where I do have a huge workload. I have presentations to give, I have clients to see, I have my own personal responsibilities and curiosities. There's my own ambitions, and it does feel like a lot. And so, one of the ways that I help really maintain myself is just through little simple practices by writing it down, seeing it, and seeing the bigger picture and seeing how I have time for it all versus learning how to not make it all feel urgent. Because that's something I used to struggle with is this as a nurse, everything was urgent. Everything almost felt like life or death sometimes. And so learning how to recognize what can wait was one way that I've been learning how to maintain my balance. And then also not trying to do everything at once. It's my repetitive lesson that I keep getting in life is you can't have it all. And so learning that I am here on this earth for a long time because I am choosing to take care of myself in a way that will make it sustainable for me to where if I can't get to one thing in a 1 week or see those people in the next 2 weeks or be able to sign up for that class that I thought I was going to be able to sign up for, I have time
Mhm.
because the things I want in my life, they're not going away. And I'm gonna always be remembering that about myself to do so. And then also being able to tap into something that is outside myself too, because I truly believe you need to have a spiritual practice for yourself too, to stay in balance for all the material things that our world has in front of us. And I have a lot of conversations with myself and in the pages of my journals and honestly with God because that's my take and that's how I choose to I guess look at it in the world of spirituality and come out of myself and realize whoa I'm being I'm trying to be a superwoman when really I'm human.
No, I feel like you definitely are a superwoman for being able to accomplish and being able to have this mindset and recognize a lot of different things that requires a lot of superpowers. And I feel like you definitely have those. One thing I would say is that I feel like one complaint that I have with world is taking or considering the lifestyle that it's race against time. It's not a race against life is not a race against time. We have a long life, but will be a long life if you live it in a healthy way. You identify concerns, you identify struggles, and then you overcome or you take actions to overcome those things. I feel like one of those things that you already touched upon is writing it down, communicating, and being in touch with your spirit, with God, with the universe, journaling down feelings and stuff that's going on. What are some other self-care practices that you feel like you could recommend to the listeners in their day-to-day life just to take that first step or just to improve their lives a little bit?
Yeah, I one recommendation is truly go outside. Go outside as much as you can. Take your shoes off. Go put your feet in the bare grass. Go lay in the grass. Go look at the trees and go take some time to really see how that took time. Look at all the different ways the branches are going in different directions and notice that your life is just like that. Every decision you choose to make is just a small path that is still,
Wonder.
yeah, yeah, wonder's here. It's everywhere. So I really believe like if you just take the time to connect with that outer world of yourself that is natural, not that it's man-made, but that is natural, you will come back into yourself as a practice. It truly it's it's mind-blowing to know like there are people much bigger than me that, are famous and writing books and speeches. And I mean, I'll get there.
Yeah,
And
that's where you're heading right now.
yeah, that's in the works right now. But at the end of the day, there's nothing truly profound that is being said. It's more on the way that you're saying it to yourself. That is a practice that you need to learn to have with yourself. And that is one tip that I can always recommend is figure out your way of saying it. And then on top of that, coming back to just the very basics of just drinking
Hmm.
enough water, getting enough sleep, and figuring out what those distractors are and how you can lessen them in yourself to pay attention.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Um, the field of, I would say the field of coaching, the field of medicine, the field of wellness is evolving. There are a lot of folks who are trying to rebuild this, what we call rebuild this wellness lifestyle. Where do you see it, and how do you see it evolving over the next upcoming years?
Get ready for it to grow, grow, and grow. And I say this just because we are reaching this point with ourselves where people want to hopefully take more charge. We're seeing what's going on in the world. If when we have different authorities taking care of ourselves, we're getting disadvantaged of. We're seeing that in, without getting political, but we're seeing that in our politics. We're seeing that in our governments. We're seeing that our ability to put trust in other people is disappointing us or putting us down
Yeah.
in some type of way. And so the coaching industry, I think, will only grow because it really is going to teach people how to train themselves to take charge. And unfortunately, also where healthcare is going, I think they're trying in a lot of ways from what I've witnessed, but due to the combination of what we faced in COVID and really how hard it is to change a system that unfortunately does profit for money more than it does for health,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna
100%.
see we're gonna see huge crises happening. And that's also why I think the coaching industry will grow because we're gonna see soon the baby boomer generation, they're approaching an age where they're gonna need more medical care than ever. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is going to be overrunning our hospitals in a lot of ways, but yet we're also at the same time going to be noticing nursing shortages. There's been predictions that truly by 2030, over 500,000 nurses are going to be no longer in practice.
Oh,
While also we're having a generation that is going to need hospitalizations if we continue to live the life that is taught to us, which is the American normal lifestyle, which is just not the healthy lifestyle, but we've normalized it. And then we're also going to probably see some physician shortages too. So it's more than ever that we're going to see like the tiers are already off kilter. They're going to even more get off kilter. So we're only going to widen our gap, so that's why more than ever, there needs to be ownership taken into ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like what the coaching programs is doing, it's they're providing different niches and different specialities to people who might be able to like access them or utilize them. Like for an instance, if someone's interested in adventures, they can reach out to you. If someone's interested in like let's say more spiritual, astrology based kind of lifestyle, they could reach out to those wellness coaches. So there are different things that people are bringing in that will definitely improve, I feel like, a lot of lives. But the over dependency and the very heavy dependency on pharmaceuticals, I feel like, have led us to this moment because people go for quick fixes, and those quick fixes usually come up from different prescriptions or different drugs and stuff. And they might be a quick fix for now, but they will have some repercussions probably in the future for your lifestyle. And sometimes people don't see it as a long term way. They just want to get along with their day.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. Our system of what healthcare is, it's not structured in a way that is around how I teach. The way that I try and advocate is through that lifestyle medicine, which is getting to the root cause of things. And with every root cause, there's a different story that's involved. And like you were saying, everyone has a different way that they need that perspective for them to make it make sense for them.
Mhm.
Yet our current way, it's very allopathic. That is our current healthcare system, which really does treat more symptoms, diseases with more protocols, more procedures, and honestly, the patients being the second, like having the opinion last. They're just kind of, they're the experiment per se. Versus with lifestyle medicine and especially coaching, there's way more where we're getting down to the root of why you are the way that you are and how we can help you there. And that is the biggest difference that needs to be recognized as well when it comes to why we're feeling so much resistance sometimes in taking care of our health, and why I think people are still hesitant in the world of coaching because they think we're having that same mindset when it's completely different.
Yeah, yeah. What advice or how would you advise someone who is looking to start a career, who's either looking to start a career in wellness coaching or who's trying to transition from one career to another? Because that also sometimes requires a lot of inner strength and a lot of courage.
Yeah. I've been having a lot of conversations around this, and I've been very thankful to be helping mentor people in this and to be able to just share my story. And I think one of the biggest ways is to know that you're able to do it. And you should never invalidate yourself because everyone needs their own version of what they need to hear, and your story can be that thing that they need to spark that. And for you to continue that with yourself and really make that move for yourself is to start doing the work. Start being your own client, start doing your own internal work so you can really understand yourself deeper, to then notice that you are worth helping others because you have learned how to battle with yourself. And that's what you versus you is all about, is like you just learn how to face your own battle. It's because it's always at the end of the day, it's going to be you, a version of you versus another version of you. And
Wow.
it's and you have to learn how to overcome those battles and find peace with them. Or, if you got to cut one of those yous out, cut them out. But it's all about finding your better self. And so continuously putting yourself out there and having conversations. And in a way, creating that manifestation with others by sharing your dreams, by writing down your dreams, make it come outside of your mind, and notice how once you let it leave your mind, it starts to become reality in very tangible ways, slowly but surely.
Yeah. And I feel like having someone who could guide you with it or having a community around you in that journey is also really important.
Oh, yes. I'm glad that you touched on that too, as well. Huge aspect. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that can feed that hunger that you have in how you want to become and who you want to become, because they're hungry and a version for themselves too. And you guys can both be able to trade off services to collaborate instead of seeing it as comparison. I think people make these journeys of wanting to start these careers for themselves, whether they're in wellness, whether they're in something else, and they make it a competition and they see it as a comparison game when really it can be seen as a collaboration. For goodness sake, me and you, we met at a conference, and instead of seeing it as I'm better than you, it's like, how can we work together? And I learn from you, you learn from me, and we can exchange this genuine connection of how we can support one another. Because in the end, you've helped me, and I hope I have helped you in some way in
You
life.
definitely have. Yeah, your mindset has definitely helped me in more than multiple ways, I would say.
Yeah, so it's again knowing that you are not alone in this journey, even if the thing that you want to do might not be something else someone else wants to do with you, someone can be beside you. And that right there is why we're that's why we're a human race. Like
Hmm.
we're meant to be together in communities and have our own little villages. It's not meant to be done all by yourself, but there has to be some internal work that you have to do with yourself first and recognize it, verbalize it, be able to articulate it and make sense of it before you start moving forward. Because you're forever going to feel paralyzed if you can identify some of the things that you want or that you're struggling with, and then figure out your systems and your practices that you need to chip them away.
And how in your personal life, like how important has the attending conferences and doing those networking been for your own professional growth and your personal growth as well? Because you mentioned that both of us we met at a conference, and I feel like that conference really helped me personally grow in a lot of different ways because I met so many inspiring people like yourself that it really pushed me to take that extra step and to go that extra do the extra work because I was surrounded with so many talented people up over there at that conference.
Yeah, I would encourage do it. Do anything that you can to be in the spaces that you want to see yourself in. And they really, it comes down to as well a reason and a way that we have become the people that we are, the society that we've become. And I'm saying this in a positive way versus
Mhm.
some easily be taken as like our world is kind of all over the place. But really, it's who you know. And it's who you know that helps you build. And every time that you are going to these conferences, you're going to this networking, you're elevating your energy and the space that you're letting yourself feel allowed to be in, and you give that permission to yourself. And when you do that consistently, more and more, you build that confidence and you feel the sense of belonging. And that's another part that is so essential when it comes to learning how to become who you need to be is learning how to take care of your social well-being, because your social well-being is very much connected to your overall elevation. I don't want to say elevation, but just becoming that better version of yourself. Because we as a human species, we need belonging. And so when you're going
Mhm.
to these events and you're going to these different places, you want to belong, you want to feel like you belong. And so going and trying all these places out and trying them on is going to make you find your niche of where you feel like you belong best to just come into yourself and make home with
Yeah.
others.
No, definitely. And you spoke about how important looking up and surrounding yourself with like-minded people or mentorship programs could be. Um, you yourself provide mentorship and wellness coaching at you versus you wellness coaching. How can people reach out to you? What are some ways in which that you could help out those people?
Yeah, of course. There's so many ways. I would say the number one way is definitely reach out to me on Instagram. I'm always keeping connections there, as well as if you want to, you can always sign up for my email list and I can always share that for you guys and share it in the show notes. And then there's so many different things. I mean, of course, I take on one-on-one clients. I do group coaching, and then right now I have some really fun things in the works. Lately, the future of you versus you wellness coaching is changing just a little bit. I'm becoming more and more comfortable with being able to create in-person communities and then hopefully realize and hopefully creating that for others in a lot of different avenues because of course, I'm one person and and I know I can still make a huge change, but it's not all up to me. And I will proudly say that I'm not gonna change the world. It's the people that I help and that I can ripple into that can help change the world with me. And so
Mhm.
I think you versus you is going to be learning how to create these in-person communities around the world, maybe around the states. We're strategizing that right now. But I think right now it's going to be learning how to publicly speak to be able to talk to the masses about this and for people to walk away and learn how to apply this for themselves. Um, and soon we're going to be working on doing a more blue zone themed retreat where we really talk about the key elements of people that live in to their 100s with such a deep quality of life and such a richness of life. And I want to create experiences like that for people so they can bring that home into their communities.
I'd love to be part of that Blue Coaching Retreat program that you'd be running because that sounds really fascinating and really interesting.
Oh
And
yeah. I'm hoping to find also mentors or scientists or whoever. I'm still learning who to get connected with. And this is also just candidly, this is what it looks like to build a business, is finding the right people that have more expertise than you, that have been doing the research for 5, 10, 15 years, and you can follow along with, to learn how to collaborate with, to learn how to pick their brain and understand how to build something. Because I've been so fascinated by what the blue zones are, which is these zones around the world that people are living to 100 and wanting our world to just, why does it have to be so selective in just those little zones? There's a theme in every part of those zones that needs to be brought into every town and in every city and in every state and in every country. But of course, I'm not an expert in it, and I'm gonna own that I'm not an expert in it. However, if I can be a facilitator in it, that is just as powerful. And that is something I always want to encourage for any business person, any entrepreneur, is that you don't have to be an expert per se, but you need to find those experts that are willing to help you. Your role can be more than just this face for people. It can be learning how to collaborate. It can be learning how to coordinate. It can be learning how to plan. It can be learning how to have visions. And in the end, all of this, the common theme is just having the conversation and learning how to ask and having the courage to do that day in and day out and understand that not everyone may want to, but it's worth the chance.
yeah, yeah. And like just to wrap this beautiful conversation up, how would you say that people can take that first step towards being curious, towards wondering things, or building up that mindset, that adventurous mindset that we spoke about?
One of the biggest ways is start listening deeply. Being a better listener will be your it will be your key to unlocking a new world for you. And that will be my simple fact. And then of course, start using your eyes differently and activate your senses a little bit differently. How are you becoming present in a moment? How are you activating all five? How are you breathing differently? How are you smelling the scents of the world differently? How are you speaking differently? So I think learning how to have those skills will be so important when it comes to coming back to our big conversation of how to cultivate adventure mindset, to feel that sense of purpose and aliveness within each of us.
That was so beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sophia, for joining me for the We Are Mentally United podcast. I'm always in awe. I'm always in wonder whenever I hear you speak, and it's always a very nice experience. But so thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, I am more than happy to always be here. I know that We Are Mentally United will also create the biggest change in this world, and I'm just happy to have been another voice to help amplify what it is that you're really after in this life. So thank you for hearing me, for me to hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best in all the work that you do. You're making up a very, very, very important change that's really needed in this world. And I wish you all the abundance and best for that.
Thank you so much. All right, well, you guys have a great day. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.